This first play is an example of a flop that will be penalized. The highlighted player, number 30 in the white uniform, sets a screen on the on-ball defender, and he then feels slight contact and he falls to the floor. However, the level of contact on the play is inconsistent with the grossly embellished fall to the floor. This was an illegitimate basketball play by number 30 in the white uniform, intended to draw an unearned defensive foul call. Again, this is a flop that will be penalized. This next play is another example of a flop that will be penalized. The highlighted offensive player will draw a legitimate defensive foul on the drive, but he subsequently over-embellishes the contact by flailing his arms and spinning to the floor. This over-embellished reaction is inconsistent with the level of contact and with the direction of the contact. Again, this flop will be penalized. This is another example of a flop that will be penalized. After releasing the jump shot, the shooter, number 3 in the white uniform, extends his right leg, attempting to draw a defensive foul call. While there is marginal contact on the play, the flail and spin to the floor by the offensive player is an over-embellishment, and it is inconsistent with marginal contact. This is a flop that will be penalized. Another flop that will be penalized can be seen on this next play. As the highlighted defensive player prepares for a potential rebound, he feels slight contact from his opponent in his back. He then falls forward and collapses to the floor in an obvious over-embellishment. The actions by the player in the white uniform are inconsistent with the level of contact on the play and is designed to draw an unearned loose ball foul on his opponent. Again, this flop will be penalized. This next example is another example of a flop that will be penalized. As the highlighted defensive player, number 3 in the red uniform, defends the driving offensive player, he feels slight contact and he then launches himself backward to the floor. This reaction by the defensive player is an over-embellishment of marginal contact, and it is intended to draw an unearned offensive foul on his opponent. This flop will be penalized. Yet another example of a flop that will be penalized can be seen on this next play. While defending against a legal ball screen, the defensive player, number 8 in the white uniform, absorbs solid contact from the screener. However, the reaction by number 8, which includes a flail, a spin, and fall to the floor, and apparent demonstration of injury, was a gross over-embellishment and was inconsistent with the degree of contact received on the play. Again, this is a flop that will be penalized. This final play in this series is another example of a flop that will be penalized. The highlighted defensive player on this play, number 50 in the white uniform, gets entangled with the offensive player who is moving to receive the inbound pass, and the defender then throws himself backwards to the floor, simulating that he was pushed down on the play. This was an unreasonable embellishment by the defensive player, designed to draw an unearned offensive foul call on his opponent. Again, this flop will be penalized. This first play in this series is an example of an act that will not be penalized as a flop. The highlighted defender on this play is involved in a mismatch in the post. The defender, number 4 in the red uniform, absorbs an initial bump, and he then takes a second bump before falling to the floor. Even though this was not deemed to be illegal contact by the offensive player, the defender did not over-embellish the marginal contact in an attempt to draw the charge. This contact would not be considered a flop and will not be penalized. This next example is another play that will not be penalized as a flop. The defensive player, number 11 in the white uniform, reacts to the spin move by the offensive player with the ball, and he absorbs the marginal contact and he goes down to the floor. While there may be a slight embellishment by the defender to draw attention to the marginal contact, this is a legitimate basketball play and is a reasonable attempt to draw the charge. This play would not be deemed to be a flop and it will not be penalized. Another example of an act that will not be penalized as a flop can be seen here. As the highlighted player, number 5 in the red uniform, gathers the ball and secures the long rebound, he makes a mild flailing action with his left arm as he feels marginal contact from an opponent. This attempt to draw attention to the marginal contact was not an over-embellishment, and therefore it is not deemed to be a flop. Again, this act will not be penalized. This final example in this series again shows an act that will not be penalized as a flop. The highlighted player, number 21 in the black uniform, moves into position for an offensive rebound, and he then feels slight contact in his back. While there may be some embellishment on the play, the forward leap by number 21 is not unreasonable given the direction of the push and forward momentum of the rebounder. This action is not considered a flop and will not be penalized.